The federal government took action this week on one of the calls to action in the 2015 Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It named Chief Ronald Ignace as the first commissioner of Indigenous languages. Now, he is from the Tshwet'emek Nation in British Columbia and is an adjunct professor at Simon Fraser University. Chief Ronald Ignace is in Vancouver. Commissioner Ignace, an important task before you, but certainly a difficult one. How do you protect Indigenous languages that have very few, in some cases, fluent speakers today?
Well, that is why we have fought and have fought for years to have our languages protected. And it was important for us to get this language legislation through. The legislation is important because it recognizes our languages in law, so that no longer will our languages stand in the shadow of another. And the Indigenous Language Act, for many years, our people have fought to protect their languages by elders working out of broom closets, raising funds, pennies and nickels and dimes, to try to develop, buy materials, teaching materials, get resources. And so we fought hard because our languages have suffered oppression, destigmatization, stigmatization, and the silencing of our languages through the use of residential schools. Mm-hmm. That we fought hard to ensure that the federal government would be uphold and support our languages with appropriate, sufficient, and ongoing resources, so that our people will not have to beg, borrow, and steal to try to get materials and resources to teach the next generation of speakers our language.
So let me ask you, sir, on a practical level, I think about francophones who live outside of Quebec, and they have the backing of federal laws, of school boards, of, in some cases, funding. Do you think that is the level of support that is necessary to prevent the languages that are still spoken, if not widely, then from disappearing?
Well, let me put it this way. Our language is now being recognized in law, will give us the opportunity to get the resources, but we have, as a commission, need to ensure that the federal government upholds the promise of the legislation to support and assist Indigenous languages funding across the land. Mm-hmm. But the legislation, as in and of itself, will not save our languages, but it is what we do with the legislation that will create the opportunity for us to revive and revitalize and reclaim our languages.
I think about, and it's not obviously exactly the same, but I think about species that are extremely endangered and virtually at risk of becoming extinct. And when there are only a couple of dozen of that species left, it's sometimes seen as impossible to save them. On the level of language, when you have some languages that are spoken only by dozens of people now and not thousands, do you prioritize those languages? Do you prioritize ones that have more speakers to try to save them? This is an awful way to ask it, but how do you choose what to save?
We have taken the position as Indigenous peoples across this land, and through the in the consultations that led up to the formulation of the legislation, that we will ensure and fight that no language is left behind. And for example, the Huron language has no speakers, mm-hmm. but yet we will be working with them, and they're working to revive, reclaim, and revitalize that language which has no speakers. And
how do you do that? I mean, speaking of the Huron language, how do you do that in the age in which we live? Are what technological tools can you exploit to try to bring that language back to the fore?
Well, I think it's not so much technology that will save our languages, but it will definitely be a great asset in saving our languages. What they're able to do is that they have speakers, related speakers of their language in the United States. So they are going there and learning from them and bringing that back home. And it's a grim determination of our people to revive their languages, because our languages is the heart of who we are. It grounds us in our identity and gives us our determination to live. And without our language, the reason that our languages was taken away from us, oppressed, is because there was a notion that we weren't human beings. But we are human beings with the language, and we will fight tooth and nail to revitalize and reclaim our languages, because that is our identity.
You are yourself a survivor of a residential school. Are you able to share with us experiences that you've had and seen related to language loss, very firsthand?
Well, I went into residential school, and as I entered the door to the residential school, I knew that life was not going to be the same. The rich, loving, and culturally rich community and elders that I was raised with, when I came out of there, they would no longer be there. And I issued a primal scream that I have not issued before that, since then. And what I did in residential school is I realized that because the way I was raised by my great-grandparents who had adopted me, that what I thought I could not be beaten for. So I thought in Suwapmachid, but they couldn't beat me for what I thought, because I translated in my mind into English.
It is, your story is remarkable. There are a lot of other words that would go along with it, but it is a remarkable story. Does it, I've only got a few seconds left with you here, sir, but does it motivate you to do the language-saving work that you're now charged to do?
I have. Yes, I have. I have been. That motivates me, but also seeing our elders who did not know how to read and write the language when we established a language program. They came into the class and said, "We know the language, but we also want to learn how to read and write our language." So the younger students that knew how to read and write the language taught the elders in the class with the instructor how to read and write, while the elders helped with the instructor to teach the language. So it was a cross-fertilization between the elders and the youth. And that was, I found that remarkable. It is remarkable that we are still here today, and it is remarkable that we are working to revive to breathe life back into our language and to bring it back to the honorable place that it ought to be, in a strong and an honorable way.
Commissioner Ignace, good luck. Thank you for speaking to us. Lots of work ahead for you. We do appreciate you speaking with us.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.